Systematically, they eroded and destroyed the commodity standard. As weak as it was, there was still some residual relationship of the paper to a gold standard up until '71, but since then there has been nothing. And it's for this reason you see the escalation of spending, government programs, and no restraint whatsoever. So it is this participation between the politicians and the central bank which not only threatens our economic security, which is secondary to the threat to our individual freedoms. That's the 4 reasons, in general, I believe we ought to have a gold standard.
Since this is a debate, the rules will be that each participant express a statement, and then we'll have rebuttals by the 2 participants and then questions thereafter. It's my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Partee.
Ron Paul and I have debated this issue informally and sometimes more formally, and we were not only both members of the Gold Commission, but since my name is Partee and his name is Paul, we sat next to each other at all of the meetings and exchanged notes and that kind of thing, and then even agreed on some issues. For example, the recommendation for printing of a gold eagle, he and I agreed on. Now the difference is, you see, that what I wanted it for was to have it as an indicia of public attitudes towards financial conditions in the country, and therefore I wanted its price to be able to vary. That is, it would be a weight, a fixed weight, but its price would vary, and the variation in the price would be an indicator of developing attitudes in the public toward financial conditions. You destroy that indicia value when you have a gold standard, of course, but for this purpose, why, it would have been quite worthwhile. I might also say that it's always a hard act to follow Congressman Paul, because he's a powerful speaker, and he has a certain religious fervor that even was recognized back here in the audience that I don't have. I can't afford religious fervor. I simply try to look objectively at what might make the system work better or worse, and what is doable, and is what does not appear to doable, but to be doable. And on the basis of that, I have decided that it's quite out of the question to have a gold standard in the world or a gold standard in the United States until a great many preconditions have been set having to do with discipline and behavior, which I don't see any sign, certainly not in the daily press, certainly not in world events, that we're moving toward establishing. And I have also 4 points, and they are directly on the question of a gold standard. What we need, my first point, is that what time has shown that the world or the United States or any individual economy needs for its monetary standard is one that will expand gradually over time in line with population growth and with increased production in the society. If you have something that expands too rapidly, and that, of course, is a very, very grave threat with paper money, why, you'll have inflation. But if you have something that expands too slowly, you'll have persistently downward bias on the price level of the country, and history has shown that stultifies production and new thinking and private entrepreneurship rather than reviving it. So that what we want is something that will expand gradually over time as the population and the production of the society expands with that time. Gold, in my view, only very roughly approximates this particular test. It is true that there is a gradual increase in the gold stock, that is, as we're able to identify it, over time, because it is not destroyed by and large, and because new production is a small proportion of the stock of gold. But the rate at which the gold stock expands is subject to a great many variables. The discovery of new gold, the development of alternative non-monetary uses of gold that make, in fact, the correspondence between this need for gradually growing monetary standard and the supply available for monetary purposes of gold to meet. That's why, for example, over the years, the concept of gold as a part of the money supply was supplemented with silver as a part of the money supply in order to get more money. That's why, over time, despite the definition of this fellow who goes to the desert island, who is so poorly received, who, by the way, sounds like a banker to me, Ron, that's why banking developed. And the bankers took gold and issued promissory notes backed by gold in return. And that was, of course, where paper money started. It started in the private sector, not in the government sector. And it was the abuse of the use of paper money in the private sector by private sector participants that resulted in this becoming a government monopoly, I think, in every major country in the world today, and for a good many years past. In any event, it seems to me that what we want to have, rather than this imperfect relationship between the growing supply of gold and the growing need for money, what we need to have is something that will show some flexibility, some elasticity, that is subject to some management. And so when it comes down to a blind confidence, choosing between a blind confidence in technology of gold production and the efficacy of management, I come out for management. And therefore, that's my first point. My second point is that we often talk, and Congressman Paul did, about the benefits of going back to stable exchange rates. Stable exchange rates would result if we reestablished an international gold standard because, of course, the relationships, the relative values among the currencies of the various countries of the world would be fixed by that gold relationship, and they would presumably remain that way. I might point out that the fixing would be quite a problem. One would have to decide what a proper fixing is. That was done, except for the dollar. By the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, we've had increasing difficulty with the question of fixing relative values of countries' currencies, increasing difficulty in the years since then, and chaotic difficulty with it in the last few years, with differing rates of inflation, say, ranging from Argentina, where the year-to-year increase in prices is 376%, to Germany, where the year-over-year increase in prices is 3% in the most recent period. I'm happy to report that the United States at 4.5% is a lot closer to Germany than it is to Argentina. In any event, there would be the problem of fixing the relationships if we were to go back to an international standard, and I think that would be probably as difficult a conference, if not more difficult, because there would be so many more parties involved, than we're having with the Russians today on the question of nuclear proliferation. The even more important